Welcome to episode 113. My name is Rachel. This is Woolen Spinning. My name is, I already said my name is Rachel. I can be found pretty much everywhere as well for pearls, and I live just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada. My neighbor, I love her to bits. She's wonderful. She unfortunately decided that today was the day to look after there's a big cedar hedge that goes between us, and she has hired somebody to look after it and basically give it a haircut. He was moving down and he seemed to be kind of moving like away from us, but unfortunately now he's like right up next to me. So I have the doors closed. I turned the gain down on the microphone, which actually, sorry, this is gonna affect you guys a little bit, but I'll turn it down even a little bit more. And I'm just hoping that you guys don't hear it too much, and then it's just me that's picking up on all of the noise. So, I'm glad, Florence. So Florence said it's a gentle hum going, but not too loud. So I'm glad. All right. I'm glad, Mary, you figured it out. That's wonderful. Okay. So yeah, thanks you guys. I'm glad that it's not too annoying. For a while there, I was like, because he was right at our front door, and our front door is like, I have a big light right here. And he was like right behind it, just behind our front door. And I was like, but he seems to have kind of moved away. So hopefully it won't be too bad. All right. Thank you, you guys. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for joining us. This is Wednesday, March 6th already, 2019. Like I said, it's episode 113. I have quite a bit to share with you. One of my cameras is not working. There was an update this morning and I clicked to do it later. And then at the last minute, I had put it off, and then it just did it automatically. So unfortunately, I think it's done something to the second video capture device. That's one of the the streaming software. There's these different capture devices that you use. And of course, today of all days, I decided to do some changes with my camera equipment because I wanted to use this camera instead of this camera, which is now... We wouldn't have had a show at all if I hadn't have switched the camera. So I guess some things happen for a reason. I'm not going to make it a super long show today, and I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but I've just had a really, really bad last 8 days. There's been a lot going on. If you read my blog, you'll have seen one of the things was posted on there a couple of days ago. I'm not going to go into any detail because honestly, I need to keep it together for the show. But there's just been a lot happening at this end. So we're going to... have a slightly shorter show, so I hope that that's okay, and I will be back later in the month. We've got spring break happening here in March, so it's a 2-week break for the kids. It goes over 3 weekends, so it's quite a long time that the kids are off. It does affect the show schedule, so the next show and the schedule for the next show, I will be posting that on Patreon. So if you would like to be able to participate in the next live stream, please watch your Patreon messages because the date for the next live stream will be in there. It will be probably on a weekend. So for those who often aren't able to catch the show, I really hope that you're able to. The weekend streams are always really fun because there's usually lots of us that are able to attend. So that will be sort of back to regular scheduled programming. And today will be some works in progress. I have some... What do I have? Looking around going, I don't know what I have. We've got some breed and color studies to talk about, and I have a work in progress that I wanted to share with you. I have a finished item, and we have quite a big spinning growth, so I would really like to get to that. In the live streams, you guys won't see the sponsors and the sort of advertisements that are going to start with the show. It just sort of helps me to boost up the quality of the show even more. But this week's sponsor is from ColorStorms, colorstorms.com. And in the recorded version that you guys will see on YouTube later this week, you will see the ad come in here from Linda now. So we will also have the intro to the show, and then we will jump right into it. So I'm going to take a sip of my coffee, and then I am going to keep talking. ColorStorms offers a surprising variety of colors and bright shades made of natural dyes. I offer 2 kinds of worsted weight yarn that comes in both solids and gradient sets. My fingering yarn is a soft wool nylon blend that comes in gradient sets and multicolored sock sets called Playful Pairs. Last year, I started dyeing fiber as well. It's all on my website, colorstorms.com. On Instagram, you can see my latest dye work and experiments. All right. Thank you, Becca, for helping in the Slack channel. It's all scrolling through beside me, and I just appreciate your help, so thank you. All right. Hi, Ree. Hi, Kat. It's good to have you guys here. And again, thank you, Becca. All right. Hi, Susanna. There's so many people in the chat today. I'm just so pleased that you're all here, so thank you so much. Okay, let's talk about breed and color studies. We are coming to an end. This is the last month of this particular breed and color studies. As you guys know, in the Ravelry group, the breed and color studies does continue on. It's not like it just magically disappears at the end of March when we start our new one April 1st. There will be more information coming about the April breed and color studies. The next one that's starting, there will be more information next show. The current one, however, will run its course for the 6 months that it sort of runs, and it will end at the end of this month. And I have woven a blanket with my yarn, and I've been working on a shawl, an asymmetrical shawl that's going to go, that's a pattern that's out of the book that Katrina and I are writing, which is going to be available at the end of the month. Woohoo! More on that to come. Excuse me. But I ran out of yarn. So the contrast yarn, there was the breed and color study Massam yarn. There was the stripes that I was doing. And actually, unfortunately, I don't have it right here. I thought I did. But I seem to have left it behind somewhere. That's really weird because all my projects are usually like right here. Huh. That kind of sums up the week that I'm having. The fact that the camera's not working and now I can't find my project, that's like pretty much sums it up. So I ran out of the contrast yarn. And remember last show, I was saying that I wasn't sure if it was actually Corriedale that I was working with as the contrast yarn. Like as I was talking and as the show went on, I looked at it again and I was like, I think this is that Tunis that I combed a couple of years ago and I had thrown in my stash because there wasn't quite enough to really do anything with. There's about 200 yards and I really want to use it as a contrast yarn. So I accidentally pulled it out of my stash and it was in fact the Tunis. So I talked to Katrina and she offered me hers. Isn't that kind? So I have washed it. This was brown. It was brown. It was horrible. Anyways, I've washed it. I washed it last weekend and it came out really beautifully. I'm going to put some aside for her because it's just a lovely fiber and it spins up really beautifully. And I know that she feels that she doesn't have time to get into this project and to spin it and to work on it right now. And so but I told her that I would set some aside. So these are the locks. They're quite long and I just need to hackle it up. So I've got my hackles just over there actually. And I've been meaning to pull them out. I'm just going to strap them onto the counter in the kitchen and I'm just going to whip through it, comb it all, get it all nicely prepped. And then I'm going to spin it. I spun a 2-ply last time for the yarn that is in the shawl project. And I'm just going to go for it. So I want to get this done relatively quickly. It would be really awesome to have this shawl finished for Fibers West, which is at the end of the month. It's one of our big fiber festivals here in the Lower Mainland, just sort of in the Greater Vancouver area. But I also recognize that I'm human and I can only do so much. So I'll comb this all out and I'll just see where I get with the spinning. I may actually end up spinning half of it and ply it so that I can keep on knitting with it and then spin the other part of it and get it plied when I get it plied and sort of just work on it incrementally because otherwise I am just not going to get it done. The shawl for the show. So I'm sort of hoping to be able to get that done. And are people having problems with the link? If you're having problems with the link, can you guys go to the Patreon post? I guess you can't really see me talking though, can you? Just tell anybody who thinks that they've seen the stream already to refresh and to watch it again. All right. Hi, Megan. Hi, Kelly. Yeah, so that's sort of what I'm going to do with that. So I will talk about that next show because it'll be all combed. I'll hopefully have a bunch of it already like plied and spun because to be honest, thank you, Becca. To be honest, it's getting close to Fibers West. It's on the 22nd and it's already the 6th. So the chances of actually getting this to the point where I could actually you know, have it to the point where it would be done for Fibers West, but it would be kind of a good take along project for Fibers West because then people could see the work in progress. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about. I love spinning tunis. It's one of my absolute most favorite fibers to spin. So to be honest with you, I would be totally okay dragging this project out, but I also really want to get it done. So I don't think I had anything else I was going to say about that. It was just getting it combed, and we're putting the finishing touches on the book, and the book will be available at the end of the month. Do not worry. If you want a hard copy, there will be lots of copies. Don't worry. There's not going to be a big, well, there will be a bit of a rush a little bit, but don't worry about not getting one. If you want a hard copy of the book, you will be able to get one, no problem. So don't worry. You won't miss out on anything. We will make sure that there are enough copies. We'll do a second run, or we'll, just don't worry about it. But we are almost done. All right. Let's talk about Tamar and Wendy's yarns for the Breed and Color study. So I'm going to switch my cameras around. Thank you, you guys, for such kind words about the book. That's really lovely. All right, so this yarn, this is Breed and Color study yarn. These were the colors. Tamar is Second Zephyr on Ravelry, and WMCN is Wendy on Ravelry. And so this is Tamar's yarn, and then the second photo is Wendy's yarn. And Tamar wrote, I'm going to read what she wrote because there's no way I'd be able to tell you what she did. So this is her yarn here. It's a gradient. These are all a light DK spun mostly on my Spinolution worker bee at 9:1. I purchased the complete set, so that means that she had all 3 braids of the Breed and Color study. So there were 100-gram sets and there were 50-gram sets, and she got the 100-gram set. The braid with black is A, the braid with white is B, and control is C. So she labeled the 3 braids to keep them straight. So A, B, and C. Each braid was broken in half with the color sequence repeat in the middle. So she laid them out and she cut them in half where the color sequence was halfway. In turn, those halves were broken again at the color sequence repeat and stripped in half lengthwise, creating 4 bundles of each color per skein. So she had 4 complete color repeats of each in each bundle. The 2 skeins on the right were A and B with bundles spun intermittently. So she alternated between A and C, A and C. The third skein from the right is B and C, and the skein on the left is A and B. It was such a fun spin, and I'm just in love with the colors. So she did basically a gradient. So she moved from the black all the way across to the white. So the ones, some of the skeins are darker than the other skeins. I think they turned out really beautifully. I think it's an ingenious idea, especially because of the long repeat. And I think it's just awesome. So well done, Tamar. I know she's been wondering about what to do with this yarn. So if you have any ideas or any pattern ideas, pop it in the comments below, either on Patreon or on YouTube. And hopefully Tamar will look, or I'll let her know and post them in the Slack channel. If you have access to the Slack channel, pop in there and let you know, because lots of people have been posting questions about what they want to do with their yarns, and I hope that people will start generating ideas and posting, all the different stuff, different patterns. And remember, there's the pattern, Handspun pattern bundle in the Ravelry group. It's up in the right hand corner on the screen. That would be on this side. It's up in the corner, and you just click the tab that says bundles, and there's a whole list of handspun patterns you can add to it if you're a member of the group, of patterns that people have used for handspun that they feel have worked out really well. So I hope that that we can find some patterns together that will work for some of these yarns. Wendy is the other photo, and she spun 6 different yarns, including a hawser, a cable, a 2-ply fractal, a chain ply, a 3-ply, a 3-ply crepe, a 3-ply, sorry, I'm getting all tongue-tied, a 3-ply crepe, and a 3-ply opposing ply. The hawser has the lowest yards per pound at 1855 and has the highest wraps per inch at 22 wraps per inch, which is interesting. The 3-ply crepe has the largest yards per pound, so we're talking about grist, at 2,215, while all the others have a grist of about 1930. So right kind of smack in the middle. The 2-ply has the least wraps per inch at 13, which is really interesting that the 2-ply ended up being the sort of fattest yarn, if you will. But apart from the Hauser mentioned above, the others are all between 15 and 18 wraps per inch. I'm surprised that I managed to get a similar consistency across all the skeins. I thought the Hauser was different due to the extra squashing caused by upplying. Interesting idea, Wendy. So she thinks that maybe the Hauser was, the wraps per inch were higher, so it was a thinner yarn because of the upplying, so the additional twist that she was putting into it. But then one could argue that maybe the cable should have been like that too. I'm just throwing that out there. That's an interesting thought. Each skein is about 120 meters. I'm not sure what that is in yards. And the total length is 730 meters. So she's actually got quite a bit to do, like quite a bit with. Each skein will be one sock and will be an informal sock study into the difference between the spin styles, which I think is awesome. At the moment, I think the cable and the chain ply are my favorites because they are squishy and they are pretty. That's awesome. Well done, Wendy, and well done, Tamar. It's just awesome to hear you guys, what you're doing and how you're using your yarns. And I just love seeing all the photos. Like this time around, people were really posting a lot of photos. Me and Katrina were all making that comment. And I just really, I think people were really seeing it through to the end this time. They were using their yarns right through to the end. They weren't just making yarn. They were making plans for what they were going to do afterwards. So we saw a lot of woven things. We saw a lot of knitted things. And I think that's the whole point of Breed and Color Study, is to take it through right till the end. And that just really made my heart sing. So thank you for really investing your time and energy and inspiring others in this study. All right, I have some of my own spinning that I did, so I'm just going to move the camera around one more time. Because I don't have the smaller camera this time around, it unfortunately means that I'm going to have to show things up here. So I'm going to move my chair over just a little bit. And then I'll have this space sort of here to be able to show you guys what I am doing. I'm just going to make sure that I am in focus. I'll get Mike to look at the that upgrade and that change that ended up happening. I was going to show you guys really, really quickly, because I'm not going to talk about it too much, because I have something on the Jane loom right now, and I've had a couple of questions about the Jane. So thank you for being interested in the weaving. I'm so glad the response from the community about the weaving. That was, you know, we talked about it quite a bit last show, and it's been really cool. I've been weaving up mostly commercial yarn recently over the last couple weeks, just because of practice and wanting to do some other stuff. But I have been making some warp chains, and this is just a little warp, and I'm going to put it on next. And this is Eden. This was a colorway that was from Sweet Georgia Yarns when her little girl was born, Nina, and the colorway was called Eden. And I've made the warp chains, and the only reason why there's two is because it was just a little bit too thick to fit on just one warp, so I divided it in half. So those are going to go on the Jane next. And that was the scarf that I was going to do with the sparkle, with the mohair as the weft. This is that sparkle mohair that I showed you guys last time. So that is on its way. And the other project that I'm starting next is the March colorway for Crafty Jacks. This is Katrina's Breed and Color Study. And this is Teasewater for March. I'm so excited to spin this. So she's got all the nests of fiber all labeled, and I'm going to start at the white, and I'm just going to work my way through. And because it's Teasewater, I might actually just leave it as singles. That's my plan. And you guys will see the finished yarn next show. So I got some stuff up and coming. All right. We were going to talk about my project that I'm working on right now. So I finished my Smith & You spin, and actually the reason why I'm looking around is because I can't find the yarn. Have I mentioned that I'm having a really bad week? Where did the yarn go? Oh, sweet mother of pearl, come on. What is going on? I feel like there's like a yarn gremlin in here. Like, honest to goodness, the yarn was right here. Like, it was right here. Maybe it just doesn't want to show. Maybe it just has stage fright. That is so weird. It's literally gone. Yeah, absolutely, Ree. I spin the Crafty Jacks Fiber Club every month. So you can always join in with anything that I'm spinning. I love to spin along with people. The Warmest Row, who is Greta in the Ravelry group, she just spun up some yarn that I said to her in the Ravelry group when I responded to the yarn that she had made, because I thought it was so amazing and so cool. I said to her, I wish you'd said something that you were spinning this yarn, because I would have spun it with you. Like, I just loved it so much. It was in the sweater thread. Yeah, the yarn's gone, so we'll just have to do without it. I'm sorry I'm umming so much today. It's just because I'm tired. It's really hard to focus when you're not feeling 100%. This is the finished Smith & You yarn. It's cabled, and I've already started a sock. I worked on this last night at soccer practice, and yeah, it's turning out okay. This is the big ball of yarn. So I never got to show you guys the actual finished yarn because I balled it up right away and I started knitting with it right away because I was so excited about it. And then I started knitting with it and I forgot that when I knit, I take, because of the way that I hold the yarn, which is like this, let's see if I can hold it up. So if you're looking at, this is how I see my knitting when I'm looking at it. I hold it over my finger here and I tension with my fingers back here. So just trying to get the camera right. So I tension with my fingers back here and I hold the yarn back here and I loop the yarn over like this. So hang on. Let me see if I can like really show you. Because for many beginning spinners, you probably have never seen this like in real life. So I knit like this, okay? So like I bring the yarn over and I knit like that and I pull the yarn off and so on. Because of the way that I knit and the way that I twist, I guess I twist the yarn backwards as I'm knitting, like it goes backwards. I take twist out when the twist is Z. So this yarn is cabled. So to make a cabled yarn, you spin your singles and then you ply 2 ply. So you spin 4 singles and then you 2 ply, 2 ply. I'm just figuring out the camera. And then you put them together and they cable and they kind of pop. The yarns pop together and they kind of lock in together. It's very cool. So I started my typical spinning my singles. I spun Z, which is clockwise, and then I plied my 2 plies. So I spun them S twist. So I spun 2 S plied 2 plies. And when I went to cable, I cabled them back Z because you have to go the opposite direction again. So you spin Z, ply S, and then cable Z. And because of the way that I knit, when I finish off with a yarn that is Z plied, Z cabled, Z plied, or a Z spun single, and I've noticed this when I'm knitting with my singles yarns, and I've actually started to think that I should spin my singles S twist instead of spinning them Z twist for this exact reason. I take twist out as I'm knitting. So what's happening, yeah, Becca's saying I know a lot of knitters who take out twist in the Z direction. I think it has something, for me personally, it has something to do with the fact that I'm a continental knitter. So that means that I tension with my left hand and my right hand only moves the needle. I'm not a thrower. So if you're a thrower or you knit English style, which is actually how I was taught, you move the yarn around with your right hand, right? And when I do that, I don't add or remove twist. There's no add or remove, because I was playing with it last night at soccer practice, because, you know, I've got an hour to sit there, and I was sort of like, oh my goodness, like I am totally taking away. I'm not talking like a tiny bit of twist. I'm talking about a significant amount of twist where like the entire yarn is unraveling. So I'm not totally sure, because you can't fix that by just putting in even more cable. Like you can't just cable even more and add more and more and more twist. But it's actually like untwisting my yarn and unspinning my yarn. So I'm having to change the way that I knit by like holding my yarn differently so that I don't continue to untwist the yarn even more. It's very interesting. So I have some reflections. So when I was casting on in the first couple of rows of these socks, like down around here, right at the toe there, this yarn is all completely uncabled. Like it's basically 4 singles laying next to each other because I was playing around and figuring out how I could hold the yarn and how I could hold the needles, that the whole thing wasn't just going to start unraveling and like drifting apart. Because if you take out all the if you take out all the twist, if you take out enough of it, this is superwash fiber, it's just going to come apart. So it's been very interesting, a very interesting kind of beginning knit, because I have not, the last cable that I made, which was a long time ago, granted it was a long time ago, I accidentally messed up and I did everything backwards and the cable turned out beautifully and I loved knitting with it. Well, it's no wonder. It's because it was cabled S. So I started off by spinning S, the singles S. I plied Z and then I cabled S again. So of course I ended up with a great yarn. But this yarn is almost like it's spun opposite to what I need it to be spun as. I needed to finish with cabling S. So it's been a very interesting experience because it's the first time that I've actually, it's caused a problem. In the past, when I've had twist coming and going in and out of my yarns and whatnot, it's not been such a big deal, but this time it's actually making like a huge difference. So in some ways, I sort of wish for this yarn that I had done a big sample and knit with it before I did the huge spin. But live and learn. It'll be okay. I'll just change the way I knit. It's all good. Is it especially apparent because of the cable construction? It's totally because of the cable. It's because there's 4 singles, and as soon as they come uncabled and they drift apart, the singles, not the actual fiber, but the singles drift apart, it just becomes like, because of all that plying and all that cabling, the yarn is really tight and it's tightly twisted, and it's quite a dense yarn, but not in a heavy way. It's a lot of twist. And then as soon as you take out the twist, it all just plumps up again because it's merino. And it just plumps up and it loses its structure. That's what it is. It loses its structure. So I know a lot of knitters who take out twist in the Z direction. Turn your socks inside out and purl them. That's not a bad idea, Meg. That's not a bad idea at all. Huh. Okay, I'm going to think about that. I will report back. That would work because I know that when I purl, I add twist. So that would fix the problem. Okay, I will report back. Hold those thoughts. I will report back. Oh. Z twist is great for crocheting for that same reason. Yes, Suzanne, I've heard that actually. So that's really interesting. All right, I'm going to keep moving because we always end up going way over, and I really want to get to the spinning growth today because we didn't get to it last time, and it's a really great one. So our guild is having a I don't know what you call it. It's like a challenge, a mug rug challenge. And you had to put a mug into a bag. And my mug that I was given, so you put your mug in a brown paper bag and you put some fiber in it. And then you put it on the table, and the guild members all pick at random somebody's mug and somebody's brown paper bag. And you end up making something for somebody else. So this is the mug that I got. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a handmade pottery. It's from Gamel House Pottery. I'm assuming it's local. I actually know who I got. So Jess is one of our Patreon members, and she's also on the Slack channel, and she's quite an active member in our Ravelry group. And she's on our executive. And I picked up her thing. So she gave me some beads to play with. I'll try to show those to you guys. Now I'm going to lose them all. So here are the beads that she showed me, that she gave me to work with. And you have to try to like you know, include the things that that they gave you to play with. And then she gave me some red fiber in the bag that's BFL, and she gave me some white, which is, it says it's Rambo, but it actually feels more like Suffolk. I don't doubt that she's right, but it definitely doesn't feel like really nice Rambouillet. And so what I did, this is the red fiber. I hand carded them up. I did a bunch of hand carding. So this is the clean red. There's no white added to this one. And then I did 70, 80, 20 red and white. It looks really white, but it's actually not. It's 80, 20. And then I did 75, 25. And then I did 50, 50. And 25, 75, white and red. And then I did some just plain white. So what I'm actually going to do, and I'm hoping that I can show you guys this. So these are all set up in order so that I can spin them in order from the red to the white and then back to the red again. And I was going to do a center pull ball, but I'm not going to. I'll spin to 2 bobbins. I'll do it properly, and I'll ply them. And this is actually what I'm not going to make her. So a mug, we're supposed to make like a mug cozy. So I'm going to not do a mug cozy. I'm going to do a mug rug. And this is my drawing here. And I'm actually going to, so I had originally thought that I would do 2 for her. So that's why there's the one and then the other one next to it. And I was going to do either something that was split in half, or I was going to do something that was 2 separate ones, and I was going to like use the beads to kind of tie them together. But I actually have decided I'm only going to do 1. So just imagine this is the red gradient all the way to the white Rambo. I wanted it to be really super textured, so that's why I did the hand carding, and I'm spinning it woolen. I'm doing a long draw, and I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to do the 2 ply, and I am going to leave a fringe, and I'm thinking that that's probably some of the places I'm going to put the buttons sort of, or the beads, sorry, I'm going to sew them on sort of on the outside edges, maybe on 2 or 3 of the edges, just to give it a little bit of sparkle and shine, and then it'll give her something to put her mug on. And when she uses it, she'll think of me. Hopefully, in a good way. So that's what I'm doing. But it's a really cool project. I wasn't really keen on it at first. I felt like, oh, it's just more make work. Like, I don't want to do something like this. But the guild ladies are they're so enthusiastic about stuff, and they have this general sort of kindness about stuff that just really seems to work. And I've been really enjoying it. So I'm hoping to get that done this week, because I would really like to get it in on time. It's due at our March guild meeting, so I basically have 2 weeks from yesterday. So it's not bad. I can get it done. But I'll show it to you before I give it to her. So I'll take some photos of it, because we'll stream the show afterwards. But if you guys are part of guilds, or you're part of, like, you know, spinning groups, or like community groups, or you're part of a knitting group or something, it's kind of a fun idea. I actually have ended up really enjoying it. All right, let's talk about the one finished object that I have to show you today, and then we will move on to the spinning growth. So I have been weaving. This is 3 Waters Farm. I use silk noil for the weft. This is off the Jane loom. And then I used 3 different skeins of some leftover 3 Waters Farm that I had in my stash. And actually, these 3 Waters Farm, I'm going to show you. I wasn't going to, but I will. These 3 Waters Farm skeins that were left over, they were left over from 3 separate spins that I had done. And if you follow me on Instagram, I did post about this project and posted the yarns in one of those multi-posts. And the project that I'd used the yarn for originally was Exploration Station, which was a knit by Stephen West. Oh, he's back. The trimmer guy, he's back. All right. And I used some BFL singles that I had spun that were singles from Sweet Georgia Yarns. So this was the original yarn that I had spun. You guys see that there? So this was the original project that I had made. And unfortunately I can't make it closer because I'm using a different camera like I mentioned. So it's massive. This is it here. Have I mentioned how much I hate my phone? That's it here. So this was the original project that the yarns were in. And I don't wear this shawl very much because it's so big. It is so big. And it's hard to wear under a jacket. And I think I've started to figure out how to wear some of those shawls a little bit better. But anyways, I had those leftover skeins, and so I wove them up. And it turned out really well. I wanted more of a warp-faced fabric, so I should have set it a bit tighter, and I should have woven the silk and oil a little bit less densely. I did it at 8 ends per inch, and I probably should have warped the loom more like at 10 ends per inch and then had the weft a little bit looser. But it turned out really nicely. The white of the silk and oil definitely mutes down the handspun warp quite a bit, and you really have to look at it to see it. But to be honest with you, it really pops. It's very even. I was quite worried about my edges, but they actually ended up turning out okay. They're quite nice actually. And I threw, because all these yarns are superwash, I ended up throwing the whole thing in the dryer. And I kept checking it and kept checking it and kept checking it, but in the end I actually ran it right through until the scarf was dry, because it just kept poofing up the fringe really nicely, and it filled in all the edges, and it just made it so lovely. And then I gave it a really light press after, which actually it probably needs another press again, because it's I've been kind of playing around with it, and I haven't been particularly careful with it. I've actually worn it a few times, which is kind of cool. So yeah, it turned out really well. I think it's got nice bias, and it's balanced, which is really nice. Just, yeah, turned out really well. So one of my first projects off the Jane loom. So I'm definitely enjoying this whole harness weaving thing. I'm enjoying playing. After I took this off the loom, I'd kind of wished that I had done a 2-2 twill, but we'll get there. I might actually do this in a 2-2 twill, and I'll talk about that. If I end up doing it, I'll talk about that when I get to that, and for those who don't know what that is, because this is just plain weave. It's just tabby weave. But it turned out really nicely. So the weft made everything harmonious. Thank you, Carlotta. I've never thought about wearing my shawls under my jacket. I've always worn them over top. Yeah, it's hard. Like here, it's the rain. That's the problem. We get so much rain that you can't have a wool scarf out and on display, quote unquote, because it's just going to get wrecked. Yeah, so. All right. Oh, bye, Suzanne. I know you're not feeling great today. Thank you, Becky. Yeah, so that's that finished project. So let's talk about spinning growth, because I really wanted to get to that today, and it's quite a long one. So let's shift to that now, and then I'll read to you what Greta wrote. All right, this was a big, oh, Suzanne, congratulations. She has a brand new 8 harness Leclerc. That's wonderful. Congratulations. I am saving my pennies for a loom. I would really like to get onto a floor loom sooner rather than later, but we'll see. One day I will get there. If anybody has any comments or really loves their loom for some like specific reason, I'm looking for an 8 harness loom. I would like a wider weaving width, so if you have some thoughts and ideas, I would love to talk to you. I've been talking to Thing for String, Mickey, on Instagram. She's been really helpful because she just got a Louette David, and I've been chatting with lots of the ladies at the guild and getting their feedback and whatnot. So I just really appreciate people's ideas. It's not because it's the right way, it's a way that has worked really well for you. So I've got space issues, and I need to buy one loom, and it needs to be the last loom. We're not going through looms like I did through wheels. So it needs to be one loom and the last loom. So, all right. So true, Becca. She lives in Glasgow, so lots of rain. And she said, I live in my rain jacket and it totally affects shawls and accessories. Oh, bye, Mary. Okay, the warmest row, which is Greta, post number 100 in Spinning Growth, writes, oh no, so She says, oh no. So I love these horned Dorset socks and wore them maybe 2 to 3 times a week for maybe 4 weeks in all sorts of boots. I washed them just recently in the sink with a wool wash bar and tried them on low in the dryer. There was no felting or shrinking. It was wonderful. Though I wore them one day, and there's a hole. I'm thinking the hole is because the staple length of the fleece was short, sometimes not quite 3 inches, which made combing too difficult, so I had spun the fingering weight yarn woolen from Rolags. I spun it tight and plied it tightly and it's a 3-ply. Should I not have worn them in the boots? Was it the woolen spin, the staple, the type of heel? I'm off to darn them, but was kind of bummed. Of course, you've put all this work into your socks and into spinning them and knitting them, and now you've got a hole. Like, I totally get why you're bummed, and we would all feel the same way. So there was a whole conversation that ensued after Greta posted about her socks, because she posted all of these awesome photos, which are over here, not over here, which are over here. And everybody was really, really supportive. So I just want to say to the community on the Ravelry group, thank you, because you guys you really seem to think about what you post before you post it, and you're very thoughtful about how you post things. And I just think you should give yourselves a big pat on the back, because that's not always the case in today's world, especially with like social media and whatnot. And I just appreciate the conversation that came up after, and how kind everybody was and how supportive. So we've been having a major sock discussion lately in the Ravelry group. It's been going on the podcast. We've been having it sort of off and on over the last 6 to 9 months, because we've been doing socks in the How I Spin content through October, November, and December, and it's coming up again in April, May, and June, and it'll be coming up again later in the year. And we have the spinning socks thread on the Ravelry group, and this came up in the spinning growth thread, but she could have thrown it into the sock thread too. It didn't matter. So there's lots of places that she could have thrown this conversation about socks has been happening. And then the most recent issue of Ply magazine, which I had right here to show you guys, and of course it's gone. Yep, it's not here. I must have a gremlin in here. That's the only explanation. There must be a gremlin. I just read it cover to cover, the sock issue, because I wasn't feeling great. I've been in bed for quite a few days. And so I sat there when I was starting to feel better. I actually read the issue cover to cover, because usually I save them and I put them away. And I didn't have to. I read it from cover to cover. So yeah, it's gone. Oh, maybe it's over there. Maybe I put it away already. Anyways, Ply magazine just had a whole issue. I'm going to grab it to show you guys. That was all about sock yarn. So this is definitely like a conversation that's going on in the spinning community at large right now. It's been, I think spinning for socks is kind of like the holy grail for a lot of spinners when they first come to spinning. It's one of the things that they want to get under their belt. You know, they want to get to that point that they can spin for socks. Not because they're going to do it a lot, but I think for many of us, it's kind of the holy grail. It's one of the check boxes of being a real spinner. You know what I mean? Whether that's founded or not, I think a lot of us want to do that. So there was a major discussion in the Ravelry group about whether or not this was a snag or this was from wear and tear. I'm inclined to say, just based on my experience with my own socks, and because I had a recent experience that was very, very similar to this about a year ago with some Cheviot socks, I'm going to say this is a snag. I just have this feeling, the way that the hole is, it's in a very specific spot. It's in a spot where yarn does tend to wear. And so it maybe had worn a little bit and it was maybe a weaker spot in the yarn. But to me, it looks like a snag. So also because she hadn't worn them for very long. In my experience, and I love hearing from other people, so please chime in, but my down breed socks tend to wear like bullets. Like nothing gets through them. They're really, really tough. And whether they're spun long draw or worsted, I personally prefer them spun woolen. That's sort of I like spinning them long draw. I like spinning the Downs woolen style. It just feels really good. It tends to make like a really strong yarn. You know, it's a 3-ply. So it was a 3-ply and it was over twisted. Like, you know, you can't really go wrong with that. So my gut is that this was probably a snag, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a wear hole. So she said, and lots of people actually suggested that she knit this fabric even tighter. So that was sort of the discussion was, you know, was it not knit tightly enough, or and therefore ended up being snagged because it was a looser fabric, or was it knit loosely and therefore that particular area that was maybe a weak spot anyways wore more quickly? We'll never know. But she did write that she wondered that too, if it wasn't knit tightly enough, but there was definite thinning on that sock in the heel. I knit them on a US 1 needle and my gauge was about 30 stitches to 4 inches. The twist per inch of the finished yarn was 13 and a half. And it was a very soft fleece, more than I expected from a pulled or horned Dorset. Perhaps it was finer than I anticipated. So many people talked about not being able to see through the fabric at all. So if you look at the fabric here, this is a great photo actually be talking about this. You can see through it, and it does look like it maybe could have been knit a little bit tighter, maybe going down to US. Do you guys have size 0? You know, the 2mm needles, the, you know, even smaller. Florence wonders in the chat if it was maybe a moth, which is really interesting. Nobody suggested that, so it's great, Florence. That's a really good point. Trying to fit, and then trying different fittings by trying different heels. Maybe this is a heel that doesn't fit her foot in the best way. I went through quite a number of heels before I found one that I find works really well for my feet. The one that I like the best is the Fish Lips Kiss heel. But again, there's so many heels out there that you sort of have to keep trying them until you find one that you like and that works. Watch for where you, so this was another one that somebody said that I thought was really great. Watch where your socks wear consistently. So this was something that somebody had written in an article. I can't remember where I read it. I think it was in this issue. I think it was actually Beth Smith that wrote it. She talked about how the reason why she does now, but she didn't spin and knit for socks ever until she sort of got over that, was because they always wore in the same spot. The hole always shows up after I have worn the socks 5 or 6 times. She always gets a hole in them on the ball of her foot between her middle toes. So maybe this particular spot in the socks is an area that wears consistently, and maybe there's a reason for that. And you know, maybe you need a bit of nylon in that area. I'm not a big nylon fan, but you know, maybe a little bit of mohair in that area, like you know, and knitting just that one section to make it a little bit tougher, maybe a little bit higher grist, so a little bit thicker, a little bit denser of a yarn in that area. So Cat Collective on Ravelry, she's one of our Ravelry group members. She said she thought maybe these were some ideas. Knit at a tighter gauge, add a strengthening thread like mohair, either hand spun or commercial, carried through your yarn as you turn the heel. Excuse me, sorry. And continue the heel stitching during and after the heel is turned, and run the reinforcing thread at least 4 inches up on each side. Everyone agreed that mohair takes on the dye beautifully, and that spinning mohair is quite wonderful to avoid the typical fluffiness of the commercially spun mohair singles. So there was definitely a consensus in the group that was like, spin some mohair and add it in. Don't necessarily buy it and add it, because it does have that fluffy halo, which is beautiful if that's what you're going for. So I've got a couple of things happening in the chat channel. You guys have been quiet for a couple minutes, so now you're chatting away. My sock experiment for next year: knit all of the soles in stranded color work. Oh, interesting, Meg. Is that for all of my hand spun socks from this year have holes? So thanks for the ideas. It's so funny because, you know, I had 2 pairs of socks when I first started spinning that ended up with holes like immediately. Like I wore them for a couple weeks and then they got holes in them right away. They were right on the sole, right. Actually in the same spot as Beth Smith said in her article, right in the middle of the ball of my foot, right between my middle toes. and it happened back to back, and one of those pairs of socks ended up in the down issue of Ply Magazine, because that was an article that I wrote for Ply Magazine for the down issue. And then it happened again, and it's funny because ever since then, since playing around with ply structure and playing around with twist and playing around with some of this stuff that we've been exploring in the teaching content on Patreon, I haven't, touch wood, I haven't had any holes in my socks for a really, really long time. And I don't know if it's because I don't wear them enough, because I'm rotating through, like I have so many pairs now that I'm rotating through them so quickly, or if playing around with all these different things like knitting tighter, like knitting in a tighter gauge, spinning a denser yarn but still at a high wraps per inch, playing around with the fiber, the source of the fiber, so what it is that I've chosen. So Targhee, Suffolk, some of the other ones I've worked with is I'm trying to think of some of the odd ones I've worked with recently. Suffolk was probably the one, my favorite recently. I've had Superwash BFL quite a few times recently. But yeah, just pushing that sort of the boundaries on structure. Sorry, on fiber. And yeah, I haven't had a hole for like quite a while. So that's kind of nice. I've heard bamboo as a strengthener. But not silk so far. Silk is actually a really great strengthener. I hear conflicting things about silk, because it was mentioned quite a few times in this issue that silk didn't help with strength, but there was a master's project done through Olds College that was shared in a workshop that I did a couple of years ago, and it was this massive project that this woman took on for her final course. You have to do a final like course thesis kind of if you want to finish your master spinner at Olds College up here in Alberta, and it's a big project. And she spun and knit tons and tons and tons of different socks, ones with nylon, different fibers, different wools. And then she sent them up to Fort Mac and got the guys up there. It's an oil field up there. And she got them to wear them in their work boots. And then she evaluated which ones lasted the longest and which ones didn't get holes in them. The only ones that lasted and didn't get holes were the ones with silk. So it's kind of hard, in here, again and again, I read silk's no good, silk's no good. And yet there's this massive master's thesis that was done. And I wish I could get my hands on the actual like physical printed copy, because usually they get released. But the instructor had her copy, but it wasn't like online. It was like a hard copy that she had printed off years ago. And yeah, it was the wool silk blends that lasted the best and that wore the best. So it's interesting. I'm going to switch the cameras around, and then we're going to finish up. All right. I think the reality is, to be honest with you, when it comes to socks, and all of my experimenting and in all the stuff that I'm kind of playing with, for the teaching content on Patreon and for the discussion here on the blog, I keep coming back to sort of the same thing over and over again, that it depends. It's always, it depends. And I also think that sometimes you just have really good luck with a pair of socks, and other times you just don't. And it really, some of us wear boots all the time and it doesn't seem to matter. Some of us walk on carpet all the time. Carpet's really hard on socks, and it doesn't matter. We have laminate and we've got hardwood and we've got carpet, and I'm probably not walking on enough carpet to make that much difference to the wear of my socks. I'm on laminate hardwood most of the time. And so maybe I've lucked out because I'm on a smooth surface that doesn't abrade. And then when I am wearing my boots, it's not enough to undo the sort of saving of the sock that happens just on the laminate. So I don't know. It's interesting. Sometimes I think it's more complicated than just add more twist, make it a 3-ply. I think there's a lot more things at play here, like abrasion and the surface area of the actual physical singles, how much of that is exposed. And again and again and again in this issue, people kept coming back to like cable's really great. I think that's why this sort of crepe 3-ply has really taken hold of people because they don't necessarily want to spin that fourth single, but if they could get some of the benefits of a cabled yarn without having to spin that extra single, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you just make a crepe? Which I think is a really great idea, and it's a great option to start playing with some of these ideas. Because I had wondered with Greta's yarn, with that Dorset, maybe if it had been a 3-ply crepe or a cabled yarn, maybe she would have had better luck with that one wear area, and maybe it got snagged. We'll never know. I'm just checking the chat. I'm not ignoring you. Can you imagine? That would be so weird. Out of shoes is super hard on socks and most likely to snag. Yes, absolutely. It sounds like lots of people tend to wear their stuff in their shoes. At home. I think it makes a difference if you're adding silk yarn versus silk blended and spun with the wool. Yeah, so this project was silk blended with the wool. It wasn't adding a strand of silk. And nothing in the issue in the recent Ply magazine, nothing said whether or not, nobody made that distinction. But in that, what I had read from that project, it was wool silk blends that had then been spun. I've had all my handspun socks for ages and now just 3 have holes. Oh, bummer. I blame my new trekking boots. Yeah, sometimes you identify these patterns and you start to sort of realize that, X, Y, or Z is what's causing the problems. It's funny because both of those pairs of socks that got the holes in them back to back, it was the join. You know how when you have carpet and then you have either another carpet or a change in floor and there's that join in between, and they usually nail them down. It was the nail. There was a nail in one of those joins that was in one. It was Nora's room, from Nora's room out to the hallway. There was a nail that had just started to lift up and both of my socks snagged on it. And I realized the second time it happened. So, you pick up on things like that after it happens. Dying to know how your Hauser yarn socks hold up. Yes, I am too. I haven't started wearing them yet, but I will. I need them for a presentation at Fibers West. I'm doing a talk on Friday at 1 p.m. If you are going to Fibers West, I will be talking at 1 p.m. on the Friday, which is the first day of the festival. So the festival's on the 22nd and the 23rd. And on the 22nd, on the Friday, I'm talking at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So please come. I'm going to be talking about socks and twist and changing direction. So I'm saving those socks just to keep them clean and nice. I've got all my stuff all organized and ready to go for the talk. So the Hauser yarn socks are in there. So are the opposing 3-ply and the 4-ply. And it's actually why I'm trying to get the cabled ones done, because I would love to have one of them to show in the talk. So, all right. Oh, bare feet. Yeah, my kids do too. It's crazy. All right, I've got a little bit of housekeeping and then I will say goodbye. So this month's sponsor of the show is colorstorms.com. Please go and check out Linda's stuff. I have 2 calendar giveaways. The calendar starts in June of 2019 with a picture of the Hauser yarn. And the winners, I need to double check. I'm pretty sure I didn't mail out the giveaway in February, just with everything going on. I'm pretty sure I haven't sent those ones out. I will double check. But if you haven't received it yet and you won at the beginning of February and you haven't received your calendar yet, it's just because I haven't sent it out yet. But this month, so I'll send out these 4 all together. This month, the February episode thread, I'm going to give away a calendar. It's going to post number 7, which was Ollie Cobb, which is Eve. So congratulations, Eve. And for the Patreon giveaway, Beth Anderson won. So I've messaged you on Patreon, Beth. So if you could just let me know with your mailing address, that would be much appreciated. And Eve, I have yours, so you're good. So congratulations, and I hope that you guys enjoy that. If you would like your own woolen spinning calendar, these ones start in June and go all the way to May of 2020. You can pop into the Etsy shop, woolen spinning shop. It's on Etsy, and you can purchase your own. We have the 51 yarn spin along going on. The monthly teaching content for this month for all patrons has been released. And we also have the Thoughtful Spinner, which chronicles my woven Massim stole, scarf, blanket, I don't know what you call it, that I made over Christmas. So I hope that you guys check that out. It is on patreon.com/wellforpearls. It supports the show and helps me stay on the air and do this instead of being at the hospital, which this past week, this is where I want to be. So I appreciate your support, and I just want to thank you again for being here. If you would like to support the show as a small business and have an ad on the show, please contact me. There is a link in the show notes at wellforpearls.com or at patreon.com/wellforpearls. And I will send you more information if you so desire. There is also a newsletter for Wool and Spinning. It goes out once a month on the 14th of the month, and you can subscribe to that at wellforpearls.com. I want to thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you so much for your patience at the beginning with some minor technical difficulties. Thank you for remaining here and enjoying the show with me. It was a pleasure to stream this show with you. I don't know what the date will be for the next live stream, but I will keep you posted on Patreon, so please watch your Patreon posts. And until next time, happy spinning. Bye, everyone.